Let's see. Can you hear? I can turn it down.
I can't hear.
You can hear me, but can you hear the amp?
Just
A little buzz.
Yes.
Maybe it's not good.
Is it?
I know. Let me think what I'm doing. Oh, I know why. Sorry, I have it tuned a funny way. I'll give you something else. My name is Nathan Goldstein. I am the homeowner of 707 Kennebec Ave in Tacoma Park. I owned and lived in this house for about a year before I began my project with Muse Kerwin and FineCraft. This is an unusual home for Tacoma Park. As you'll see quite shortly, it doesn't have the beautiful craftsman bungalow style that this town is known for. And that's what drew me to the house. It was an interesting project in a town I've lived for a long time. This house was built 2000-2001 and was in need of a renovation and an update. I loved the basic flow of the house. I thought it was very thoughtfully designed. It's laid out in a perfect spot on the lot. For a house that has so many windows, it's actually quite private. It's tucked in behind the street. So it felt like it had all the right basic elements to make it a really interesting project. It was a house where the concept looked to be a little more contemporary than the actual finishes were. And so we had some remediation work to do in the outside, fixing some windows, the roof, the whole envelope of the house needed attention. We really preserved a lot of the original design concepts, mixing in some of the ironwork and leaving the basic flow of the house open. But we needed to update all the materials. And when we did, it felt like the whole house kind of lit up and became alive. Well, I had started a project with Bill Kerwin of Muse Kerwin a couple of years before that we never took to completion, but had a great experience working with him, and he and I speak a very similar design vernacular, and I think we both really are trying to make the house be most itself. And so when I found this house, there was no question in my mind that I wanted to work with Muse Kerwin again. I hadn't ever worked with FineCraft, so it was the architect that introduced me to George and the FineCraft crew. And I didn't hesitate in working with them after I had the experience of their estimates and kind of walking through the project in detail. There was no question I wanted to work with them. So the design work was in some ways fairly simple because I knew what it was I wanted to do. You've got to go through the process of making all your selections, and there are trade-offs in every project, and FineCraft was actually helpful with that. You really can't get the contractor involved too soon, and you don't want the architect to step away too soon. So really, myself and the Muse Kerwin crew and the FineCraft crew collaborated throughout the entire project, obviously in different moments, with different intensity. So we started with a pretty clean design. We really didn't make very many changes of significance. Anytime you're doing a renovation, you're going to run into challenges. The concepts as drawn don't always translate perfectly to the physical world, and so there's always a give and take. This was the best project I've done, and I've done a number of renovations. Best project I've done from a project management standpoint with the contractor, had a fantastic general contractor that FineCraft had appointed, who was really my point person for 8 or 9 months as we were getting this whole thing done. Excellent communication, weekly in-person meetings, good written communication, good follow-up. Their list of things to do was always longer than mine, which I feel like is a good sign. I didn't feel like I had to maintain the punch list or manage too much of my own project. And I've had the experience with other contractors where I've largely left them alone and always regretted it. And so FineCraft was able to manage me well as a client, give me the communication I wanted regularly. That in turn set the whole project on a very kind of even keel, and it had very positive feeling throughout the whole experience. Well, this is an unusual house in that there's a music studio in the basement, which they spent a lot of time helping me think through. And there's 2 particularly interesting features in that room, besides the fact that it's sort of soundproof and prepped for its use. You know, one is that since I was a little kid, I always wanted a hidden passage or a hidden door in my house. And I had said to my architect, I want a fake bookcase. I want to be able to pull open a bookcase to reveal the studio. They were not particularly intimidated by that request, and I think FineCraft took a lot of joy in it because it is kind of an unusual feature. The other thing which I think is really wonderfully unusual in this work is I have 2 fold-down Murphy beds in the music studio to make it a more flexible room. And as we were getting towards the end of the project, George himself came and said, I want to design and build the beds. And I, at the time, didn't realize what a substantial company FineCraft was. I've worked with companies where the owner comes in and helps out at the end and gets things to move along. FineCraft's got a lot of projects going on, and that I got a full week of George's time designing and installing these beds to me was a really nice touch at the end of a project. They didn't need to do that, but they wanted to hit my deadline, and they hit my deadline, and I was very grateful for it. I'm thrilled with the way the house turned out, and it's a joy for me to invite friends and family over and get to share it with them. Everyone's got a favorite corner of the house. My favorite corner of the house is always sort of changing as I, live in it. I would unhesitatingly recommend FineCraft for other projects that I'm working on or for friends and family. So it's been an excellent experience, start to finish.